Hello and welcome to my May 2023 Dividend Portfolio Recap. My name is Troy, I'm 28 years old and I live in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and my goal is to retire early at 50 years old. At the end of each month, I like to do one of these videos to go over the moves I've made and the progress towards my goal of financial freedom. Money. After combing through YouTube to see what else I could bring you or remove from these recaps, I came away with the impression that I have one of, if not the best monthly recap on YouTube.
Oh, no, you didn't.
I think I did.
There's a lot of information to cover in the last 30 days, so let's get right to it. First, let's take a look at my taxable account here on Fidelity, aka my retire early account. Over here on the left, you can see my 11 holdings. And here with this chart, you'll be able to see how the account balance of this account has grown so far this year. Beginning of the year, the account balance was at $25,131.92. Concluding last month, my account balance was sitting at $37,795.40. And now, concluding May, my account balance now sits at $37,685.33. Some things of note in this account: if you were here for any of my previous recaps, you probably noticed the change in my holdings from the last update. On May 19th, I decided it was time to take my gains in Nvidia as the stock never really fit the criteria I set for my holdings. As some of you historians might be aware, the stock proceeded to drop in stock price all the way to May 24th, at which point it popped 24.37% after earnings. While it for sure stinks to miss out on these gains, I've taken a step back to think and just appreciate the gains I did receive from my time holding the stock. In recap, my cost basis was $201.59 per share. I sold it for $312.71 per share, which gives me a total return on investment of 55.11% and an annual return on investment of 36.01%. With some of these profits, I began a new position in a company that did meet my criteria, which was Costco, and then spread out the rest to further balance out my portfolio. Lastly, starting last month, I officially moved all of my emergency funds, which is 5 months worth of expenses or $7,000, to SPAXX, and that now sits in this taxable account collecting the current 4.75% interest versus the 0.1% offered by my bank's money market account. While the $7,000 will not be touched or invested, the interest it generates will be added to my investable cash for the following month. With that being said, as of June 5th, the day this video goes live, I'll be able to add $2,426.42 in investable money to this account to spend for the month of June, with an additional $39.37 that was received on June 2nd in credit card rewards via the Fidelity credit card. In combination with the slight remaining cash I had in this account, my total investable amount in June will be $2,499.38. Next, let's go over my biggest winners in this account. My best performer in this account is ExxonMobil, that's up 37.64% or $882.25. My second best performer is Microsoft, that's up 18.05% or $581.82. And rounding out the top three, we have Apple, that's up 16.25% or $523.81. Now, with me being fully transparent, I also want to show you the stocks that are at the bottom of the list with my biggest losers. My worst performer is currently Pool Corp, that is down 13.24% or $388.92. The runner-up for an award that you don't want to win is Next Era Energy, that is down 7.97% or $186.78. And then my third worst stock is APD, that is down 3.12% or $72.96. Lastly, let's look down here at the bottom of the screenshot to see that this account is in the green 6.76% or $1,980.36. All right, next, let's check to see how this account stacks up versus the three major indexes year to date. On this screenshot, you'll be able to see two different rates of return, time-weighted and money-weighted. Simply put, time-weighted is best used if there is no money going in or out of the account, while money-weighted is best used if there is. I can make a video that explains this in more detail if you'd like. Let me know that down in the comments. Since money is now being added to this account, the money-weighted best fits my situation. You can see that I have a year-to-date return of 9.43%, and that is being slightly outperformed by the S&P 500 and massively outperformed by the tech-heavy NASDAQ to this point in the year. Next, let's head over to my dividend tracking spreadsheet to check out my buys for this past month. Again, it's important to remember that April was the first month I was able to add money into this account for the year, and I always max out my Roth IRA first. Here is where we stand for my May purchases. First, we have Apple that I spent $399.43 to get 2.336 shares at an average cost of $172.58, which added $2.24 in forward dividend income. Then we have AbbVie that I spent $324.84 to get 2.481 shares at an average cost of $144.80, which added $13.83 in forward income. Next up is APD, where I spent $281.50 to get 1.056 shares at an average cost of $281.48, which added $16.35 in forward income. Next up is my new position Costco, where I spent $2,343.33 to get 4.731 shares at an average cost of $495.39, adding $9.53 in forward dividend income. Next up is Illinois Toolworks, where I spent $285.48 to get 1.265 shares at an average cost of $227.91, which added $12.24 in forward dividend income. Then we moved to Microsoft, where I spent $402.48 to get 1.282 shares at an average cost of $314.07, which added $6.35 in forward income. Moving on to Next Era Energy, where I spent $292.53 to get 3.914 shares at an average cost of $75.45, which added $4.37 in forward income. Then we have Nvidia, which I sold all 10.391 shares for a total of $3,261.71, which did reduce my forward income by 37 cents. Then we have Pool Corp that I spent $370.49 to get 1.107 shares at an average cost of $340.82, which added $10.28 in forward income. Then we moved to Starbucks, where I spent $350.56 to get 3.491 shares at an average cost of $103.96, which added $4.95 in forward income. Then we have Visa, where I spent $298.44 to get 1.311 shares at an average cost of $227.45, adding $4.20 in forward income. And lastly, we have ExxonMobil, where I spent $282.63 for 2.628 shares at an average cost of $107.20 per share, which added $850 in forward dividend income. In total, I was able to spend $2,370 to get 15.211 shares over the span of 22 trading days in May, which results in $92.48 in added forward income. Next, let's see what this does to the share counts of this account. Beginning 2023, this account had a total of 167.947 total shares, or an average of 15.267 shares per holding. Concluding last month, this same account had a total of 171.953 shares, or an average of 15.632 shares per holding. And at the close of this month, I'm now sitting at 187.185 total shares, or 17.017 average shares per holding. As mentioned last month, this account will be receiving 100% of my funds for the remainder of the year, since the Roth is maxed out, so we will see some very nice progress in this account from this point forward. Next, let's look at the current yield of this portfolio. My yield on cost for this portfolio is now sitting at 2.05%, which is up from the 2.01% from April, largely due to the sale of Nvidia. Now, I wanted to outline the changes in cost basis over the past month. My cost basis in Apple went from $153.45 per share to $155.65 per share, which is an increase of $2.20. My cost basis in AbbVie went from $126.76 per share to $128.52 per share, which is an increase by $1.76. My cost basis in APD went from $291.88 per share to $290.07 per share, which is a reduction of $1.81. My cost basis in ITW went from $219.03 per share to $219.82 per share, which is an increase of 79 cents. My cost basis in Microsoft went from $280.30 per share to $284.11 per share, which is an increase by $3.81. My cost basis in Next Era Energy went from $81.10 per share to $80.24 per share, which is a reduction by 86 cents. My cost basis in Pool Corp went from $381.79 per share to $376.16 per share, which is a reduction by $5.63. My cost basis in Starbucks went from $95.76 per share to $96.81 per share, which is an increase by $1.05. My cost basis in Visa went from $209.70 per share to $211.85 per share, which is an increase by $2.15. And lastly, my cost basis in ExxonMobil went from $73.94 per share to $76.84 per share, which is an increase by $2.90. Remember, in this case, an increase in money is not what we're looking for, but when your holdings are doing well, they cost more than they used to, so you take what you can get. Next, I wanted to show you my projected annual income for this account. Beginning in 2023, I had a yearly projection of $494.51, which comes to $41.21 per month, or $1.35 per day. As of the end of April, those numbers went to a yearly projection of $514.49, which is $42.87 per month, or $1.41 per day. And now, concluding this month, I'm sitting at projections of $601.54 for the year, which comes to $50.13 per month, or $1.65 per day. As mentioned previously, the growth of this account is going to start picking up month over month due to the new money being added to the account. So be sure to stay tuned with the monthly recaps for the exciting progress of this account. Next, let's see who paid me in May and how much I made in passive income in this account. In total, I received 5 dividend payments and 1 interest payment. On May 8th, I received $12.06 from APD that was dripped, getting me 0.041 free shares. On May 15th, I received $29.65 from AbbVie that was dripped, getting me 0.203 free shares. On May 18th, I received $4.60 from Apple that was dripped, getting me 0.027 free shares. On May 26th, I received $15.36 from Starbucks that was dripped, getting me 0.154 free shares. On May 31st, I received $8.14 from Pool Corp that was dripped, getting me 0.025 free shares. And on May 31st, I also received $32.15 as an interest payment on the cash sitting in this account. Next month, I'm expecting to get 4 dividend payments and that reliable interest payment from SPAXX for my emergency fund cash in the account. Next, let's check on the totals and year-over-year growth of the income generated by this account. Here, I like to check to see how the growth of my income is going when compared to itself. May of 2020 is when I began my dividend journey, making my all-important first penny. Then in May of 2021, I brought in $19.80, which is a modest 197,900% increase year over year. The following year, in May of 2022, I moved that up to $33.35, or a 68.4% increase from the previous May, which brings us to May of 2023, where I hit a milestone of $101.96, which is a 205.7% year-over-year increase. Just that single penny 4 years ago was all I needed to now make over $100 in a single month in passive income, and that's pretty cool. Next, let's cover the account that's gotten most of the attention until recently, my Roth IRA. As mentioned earlier in the video, this account has been maxed out in terms of contributions back on April 20th, but I still had investable funds to spend. My goal each year is to have all of my investable Roth funds used by the end of the second week in June, and this year I actually invested all of my money by the end of May. Let's look here at the numbers behind the Roth. This account has 7 holdings, which you can see over here on the left side of the screen. And beginning the year, the account balance was at $46,616.47. Concluding April, that bumped to $53,193.09. And now, concluding May, my account balance now sits at $54,686.69. Some quick housekeeping notes with this account. With the cash I had in this account, I was getting interest from the SPAXX holding until it was invested. While I did spend the rest of my 2023 contributions, I was able to get some interest off of that cash. While it's not a lot, $11.15 to be exact, I'm trying to think if I should let this sit and provide me some monthly interest until next year when I can add for 2024, or just add it to my current holdings. I'm not sure which one I'll do at this point, but we'll be sure to keep you posted in future videos. Next, I wanted to go over my biggest winners in this account. My best performer in this account is Tesla, that's up 21.19%, or $1,148.53. My second best performer is QQQM, that is up 9.4%, or $509.64. And rounding out the top 3, we have VOO, that's up 4.68%, or $1,015.26. Now let's see the flip side of that coin with my biggest losers. My worst performer is QQQJ, that is down 6.49%, or $351.20. Second place goes to VNQ, that's down 4.31%, or $233.38. And my third worst stock is SCHD, that is down 3.28% or $177.35. Honorable mention to SPYG, who is holding the middle ground outside the top and bottom three, that is up 1.39% or $75.51. Lastly, let's look down here at the bottom of the screenshot to see that this account is now up 3.67% or $1,987.01 overall, which for those of you that were here last month know that this same account was down 2.1% or $984.85. To go from down 2.1% to up 3.67% in a single month is pretty cool, especially considering this account does have a more passive approach when compared to my retire early account I spoke on earlier, as well as a longer timeline since these funds are under lock until 59.5, whereas my retire early funds can be accessed in full at any time. All that to say, this account has 9.5 more years of runway to keep compounding and growing, which really gets me excited. Next, let's see how this account stacks up versus the three major indexes. Again, we have the time-weighted and money-weighted returns, and we will use the money-weighted since cash has been added this year, which results in a 6.88% year-to-date return, which is only outperforming the Dow Jones so far this year, but is making gains on the S&P 500 since last month's recap. Keep coming back throughout the year to see if we can chase down the S&P 500 and catch up to the NASDAQ before the end of the year. Now, I was able to spend a good amount of money in this account this month, so let's see what I was able to buy and exactly how much I spent. As a reminder, I spent the remainder of my funds for 2023 and my rollover 401k this month, so this, like last month, was another big spending month. First up, we have QQQJ, where I spent $569.03 on 23.105 shares at an average cost of $24.59, adding $4.64 in forward income. Then we have QQQM, where I spent $549.52 on 4.138 shares at an average cost of $132.31, adding $22.53 in forward income. Then we have SCHD, where I spent $692.77 on 9.802 shares at an average cost of $70.63, which added $61 in forward income. Then we have SPYG, where I spent $508.36 to get 9.099 shares at an average cost of $55.83, which added $13.49 in forward income. Then we have Tesla, where I spent a massive $5.31 to get 0.033 shares at an average cost of $161.01, which doesn't pay a dividend. Then we move on to VNQ, where I spent $553.07 to get 6.732 shares at an average cost of $82.15, adding $79 in forward dividend income. Then lastly, we have VOO, where I spent $4,396.02 to get 11.606 shares at an average cost of $379.86, which added a massive $140.02 in forward dividend income. In total, I was able to spend $7,272.08 on 64.515 shares in the month of May, resulting in $320.67 in forward dividend income. Next, let's see what that does to the share counts in this account. Beginning in 2023, this account had a total of 149.6 total shares, or an average of 21.370 shares per holding. Concluding last month, this same account had a total of 493.86 shares, or an average of 70.551 shares per holding. And at the close of this month, I'm now sitting at 558.38 total shares, or 79.768 average shares per holding. As you can see, this account has exploded this year so far, as I said it would in my earlier recaps. While I am done adding new money to this account, I will continue to provide updates as changes are observed and income is received in this account for the remainder of the year. Next, let's look at the current yield of this account and the cost basis movements of these positions. My yield on cost for this portfolio is sitting at 1.65%, which is 0.03% higher than the 1.62% yield on cost last month. There is a lot of exciting changes to the cost basis in this account I wanted to outline. My cost basis in QQQJ went from $27.52 per share to $27.18 per share, which is a reduction of 34 cents. My cost basis in QQQM went from $133.48 per share to $133.36 per share, which is a reduction by 12 cents. My cost basis in SCHD went from $74.11 per share to $73.65 per share, which is a reduction by 46 cents. My cost basis in SPYG went from $58.34 per share to $58.10 per share, which is a reduction by 24 cents. My cost basis in Tesla went from $176.56 per share to $176.54 per share, which is a reduction by 2 cents. My cost basis in VNQ went from $86.07 per share to $85.65 per share, which is a reduction by 42 cents. And my cost basis in VOO went from $374.88 per share to $375.66 per share, which is an increase by 78 cents. As you can see, I was able to lower my cost basis in 6 of my 7 positions this month, and now that I'm out of money in this account, I have nothing else to do other than collect the dividends, interest, and wait for 2024. All things considered, I'm really happy with my progress made in 2023 in this account, and I look forward to the growth of these holdings and the account over time. Now, let's take a look at my projected annual income for this account. Beginning in 2023, I had a yearly projection of $135.64, which comes out to $11.30 per month or 37 cents per day. As of the end of April, those numbers went to a yearly projection of $760.96, which is $63.41 per month or $2.08 per day. And now, concluding this month, I'm up to exciting projections of $894.18 for the year, which comes out to $74.52 per month or $2.45 per day. If you go back and check the tape at the beginning of the year, I mentioned that I was going to make some nice progress in this account in 2023, and going from $135.64 in January in projected income to $894.18 in just 5 months has lived up to that hype. Next, let's see who paid me in May and how much I made in passive income in this account. Technically, there were no dividends received in my Roth this month, as I get paid from all of my holdings in March, June, September, and December, but I did still get that interest payment from SPAXX from the cash that was in the account. On May 31st, I received $10.84 as an interest payment on the cash sitting in the account. I'm expecting to receive dividends from all 6 ETFs held in this account next month, but also know that the interest payment will be lower now that most of the cash has been invested. Now let's go ahead and get that added to the spreadsheet and see what that does to the totals and year-over-year growth of the passive income in this account. Here, as a reminder, I like to check to see how the growth of my income is going when compared to itself. I started my Roth IRA in August of 2021, so I don't have any 2021 May numbers to report. Moving over to May of 2022, I had the same holdings I do now, which we know do not pay out in May, but there was a small amount of cash in the account that generated 25 cents in passive income. That brings us to May of 2023, where I brought in that $10.84, which is a 4,236% increase from the previous May. Before we go, I'd like to round up all this information and look at my portfolios as a whole. First up, let's see the share count improvement and what percentage of my portfolio is now in dividend paying holdings. To start 2023, I had a total of 518.474 shares, which is an average of 23.567 shares, with 53.89% of my investments being in dividend paying holdings. Concluding April, I was up to a total of 873.393 shares, or an average of 39.7 shares, with 82.892% of my investments being in dividend paying holdings. And now, concluding May, I'm at 953.14 total shares, or an average of 43.325 shares per holding, with an exciting 93.813% of my investments being in dividend paying holdings. Now let's see the projected forward dividend income from all those shares in this account. Beginning the year, I had a yearly projection of $745.30, which comes to $62.11 per month or $2.04 per day. As of the end of April, those numbers went to a yearly projection of $1,408.95, which is $117.41 per month or $3.86 per day. And now, concluding this month, I have exciting projections of $1,629.22 for the year, which comes to $135.77 per month or $4.46 per day. Last thing I want to do is check the total passive income received for these portfolios and check for that year-over-year growth. You can see I have history for the month of May going back to 2020 in this screenshot. Quickly going over them, we have May of 2020, where I made 1 cent, which is that penny received from SiriusXM as my free stock with Robinhood. Then we moved to May of 2021, where I made $19.81, which is a 198,000% year-over-year increase. Next up was May of 2022, where I made $33.62, which was a 69.7% increase year over year. And finally, this year in May, where I made a total of $112.80, which is a 235.5% year over year increase. If you look down here at the bottom of this chart, you can see that concluding May, I'm at $706.86 in total dividends received, which is less than $100 away from what I made in total in all of 2022. June is a big paying month for me overall, so make sure you come back next month to see if I can pass 2022 in total dividend income in the first 6 months of 2023. If you made it to this point in the video, first I want to say thank you, and also don't forget to leave your May returns in the comments down below. Remember, there's no shame in small amounts. As you can see, we all start somewhere. These videos do take me a good amount of time to put together, so if you want to show your support, make sure you're hitting the thumbs up button on the video, and don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you guys don't miss any of my other dividend related content. And I recently started a new series here on my channel where I interview others in the dividend space and let them tell their story. There are some great jewels in each and every conversation, and if you've missed any of those, check them out right here. But until next time, see ya.